NBC10 at Issue starts now.
Good morning. I'm Rosemary Connors for NBC10 at Issue. We begin today with happiness, more specifically the study and scientific research behind what makes us happy, what enables us to flourish. It's a growing field in psychology.
You're only as happy as your least happy child. And I got 3 happy kids right now.
I come from Latin America, so I'm pretty much away from my family, and when they're here, you know, I'm the happiest man ever.
What makes me happy is that I woke up this morning. I'm saved, sanctified, blessed with the precious gift of the Holy Ghost. I'm married to a wonderful man.
Joining me now is Karen Rockheim. Karen is a positive psychology expert with a local private practice. She's also known on Sirius XM's Star Channel as the happiness guru. Karen is one of only a few hundred people in the world to earn a master's in applied positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania. She also has served at Penn as adjunct faculty. You and I were joking that when I was at Penn, I wish I had taken your course.
I wish you had too. It would have been fun.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. So I guess first thing, what does the research show about what drives our happiness?
So happiness is a compilation of a few different factors. So one is genetic. You know, someone out there might be saying, listen, Karen, I was born into a depressive family. I had no hope, right? So there's genetics, and then there's life circumstances. So someone else might be saying, listen, I grew up in an abusive household, or I grew up, you know, with in a certain gender or sexual orientation or race or whatnot, right? And then there's voluntary activities, what you choose to do with your time. And what we know is that genetics, research done with twins who were separated at birth, we now know that genetics only plays about 50% of your overall happiness.
Really?
Yeah, it would blow your mind, Rosemary. I mean, it's like, so what that gives us is something called a set point. That basically, if you're doing all the right activities that I'll talk about in a moment, you could be at the top of your set point. If you're doing all the activities that are not going to make you happy, you'll be at the bottom. But that is all based on your genetics. And then life circumstances, this will probably surprise you, is only 10%.
Wow.
Yeah, so only 10% of the variance in happiness gets down to the color of your skin, the circumstances you were born in. If you've had an accident and you lost a limb, it's only about 10%, which leaves 40% of our happiness in our own control. And there's a number of different factors that go into the 40%, but it really says that we can control our own happiness.
How do we make the most and sort of make the best of that 40% we can control?
So if there's any happiness killer out there, it is your mind. And what we know from science, there is something called negativity bias, that we are more geared toward the negative than we
Really?
are. Yeah, I mean,
All of us?
Most of us. It would blow your mind. It would surprise you, because if you think about our ancestors back millions of years ago, they always had to be on the lookout for threat.
Sure.
Right? Saber-toothed tigers, or how are we going to be able to feed our family tonight? And so our brains are wired to look for the threat. In other words, to be negative. And that's why you could be having a fantastic day, and then it's the end of the day, you get in your car and someone cuts you off. And now that is what you go home with, and that's what's really sitting with you. The negative is so much stronger than the positive.
That's actually very comforting to hear that, to be honest.
It's not just you.
Right.
Yeah. And so we really, number one, have to be able to get control of our mindset and really notice, where in your life are you saying, I can't do that because, oh, I can't switch jobs because I need this income. Well, you do need income, right? We live in a society where you need money in order to pay your bills and have food on the table, but does it have to be this job? Or you might hear yourself saying, oh, I should do this weekend, even though I don't really want to. Well, should according to who? Right? So you really need to get control of where is your brain going into the shoulds and the nevers and the always and the can'ts, and being able to flip it and really being able to get control of what you want and asking, how can I and what else is possible? Really going from a pessimistic mindset, that will never happen, or I am always alone, this always happens to me. Like, I have a client who is having a difficult time with love. And she says, I'm always alone. It never happens for me. Okay, well, in that mindset, it's never going to happen for you. And instead, what we know, people who have a pessimistic mindset, meaning they think that a difficult situation is permanent and pervasive in their life, it actually can take as many years off your life as smoking.
Wow.
Because pessimism causes so much stress, which makes your blood vessels constrict, which makes your cardiovascular, your heart have an attack. And so we really want to get control of that mindset. you also want to get control of who are you hanging out with.
Sure.
Right? Like, are you spending more time with people who drain you or more time with people who lift you up?
We heard that from one of the women in the beginning, in the opening sequence, who said it's negative people who make me unhappy.
Right. It's amazing. So what the research actually shows here is that emotions have up to 3 degrees of separation. So this is what it means. You and I have a great conversation today, and then you're talking to your producer, and now she becomes happier because you're happier.
Sure.
And then she calls her partner at home, and now that person is happier, and then that person goes to the grocery store and is happier to the cashier. Or it can go the opposite way. Right? If everything falls apart today at work, and now you're being grouchy and you're miserable, now your producer's starting to feel the heat from you, and now your producer is going to be angry when she goes home, and it goes on. And so other people's emotions have a big impact on us.
So it almost sounds like that end of the day vent that we I think all do to some degree. Maybe we should tamp that down a bit.
It would be in your best interest to tamp it down. Listen, we need to get it out, but don't dwell there, right? So this is not happyology, meaning you're only gonna have happy feelings. If you're sad, be sad. You're angry, be angry. But there's a difference between sadness and depression, where now you're just wallowing in it 3 days later, or anger and rage, where you just won't let it go. So you have to really be able to let yourself feel the emotions and work through it, and then say, and now what else is true? What else is possible? What is good? What can I focus on?
You touch on being depressed. What is the connection or lack of connection between depression and happiness?
Yeah, really good question. So the opposite, so depression is like it's being hopeless, right? A real sense of hopelessness about life, where you basically give up on the idea of anything vital and your sense of vitality. Whereas unhappiness is more commonly thought of as kind of in the moment, today I'm not feeling so happy, or right now I'm unhappy. And so you can overall be a generally happy person and not necessarily be depressed. And I think you even can go through bouts of depression in your life, right? Depression is a clinical illness. Last year, I mean, people ask me, you must be happy all the time. It's like, no, I mean, I'm human, right? I mean, I had a miscarriage last year. And right after my miscarriage, I lost my dog 2 weeks later. And then my stepson went into the hospital.
Oh, my goodness.
You know what? I ended up depressed, like, so a real depression. Overall, though, I still felt like I have a good life. I hadn't given up kind of all sense of hopelessness in my life, but I really needed to work through that period of time and then be able to kind of heal and then be able to say, what else is true? And one of the things that we actually know is that humans are resilient, and the ability to bounce back is super important to happiness.
You've touched on income, money. Does money make you happy? Is there a threshold?
Right. So our society in the Western world in America, we think, oh, money's gonna make me happier, right? And we get caught up in it. I'll just be happy if I can get the next $10,000 raise. And then you get it, and you're happier for like maybe a month, maybe 2, but really that's spread out over 12 months, and now you have a bigger apartment, or now your car broke down and it's gone. So what we actually know from the research is that if you don't have money to pay your bills, right? You can't afford food, you can't afford your rent, you're not going to be as happy as somebody who can, right?
Basic necessities.
Basic necessities, exactly. But at a certain point, and that point is about $75,000, the extra dollar doesn't make you that much happier. And it might surprise me.
What about the extra $100,000 or $500,000?
Right. Great question. So the next jump up is to $250,000. And that's because someone who makes $75,000 or $90,000, their lives are not that much different. They're not affording that much different in their lives. But once you get up to $250,000, now you might be able to afford your kids' college, or you might be able to afford, 2 vacations a year. And so it's going to make a difference in your overall quality of life. But anyone who's out there just thinking, well, I would be happier if I could just make more money, it's not going to make you happier. Actually, that it's called a hedonic treadmill, and that chase for the extra dollar is actually going to make you more miserable.
Earlier in the beginning of the show, we heard one woman talk about her religion and her spirituality. What kind of a factor does that play into your happiness?
It plays a big factor. Here's what we know. People who are religious or have spiritual faith, they say that they are happier. And the reason for that is that their spiritual faith gives them meaning. and meaning above all else. So above having activities that you love to do and above having people that you love in your life, when you feel like your life has purpose, you have the highest overall life satisfaction. That said, the opposite is not true. So just because you don't have religion in your life doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be unhappy. You want to take the piece in there that you can learn from people who are religious or spiritual, which is meaning, and be able to say, what is meaningful for me? And if you're out there living a life where you absolutely hate your job and you feel like, I am not making a difference and I yearn to do that, or you're not spending quality time with your family, you're not doing anything that's meaningful for you, that is where you really want to start shifting your life.
Karen Rockheide, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for sharing with us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.